Hey, welcome to 24/7.
Welcome.
Welcome to the 24/7 Marriage Podcast. Now you can say hello.
I mean, we could say welcome at the same time. There's no rules.
Hey, welcome to 24/7 Marriage Podcast. We are excited that you're here. If you like this shirt that I'm wearing, I'm just jumping right into it. This is from
Stand Up Apparel, and there's
Stand
a
Up
link
Apparel.
down below.
So there's a link down below. So I would click on that link because they are an affiliate of ours. Stand Up Apparel does incredible quality of clothing. Love all they're saying. This is God above nation. But probably most of my t-shirts from black to green and most of
And
my
back to
videos
green, and then
and
back to black,
green.
and
I'm
then a
very
little
simple.
green and a little black.
I'm very minimalist. Look at even my pants are kind of like green. Listen, you get to a certain point where you want to keep it easy, but listen, go to Stand Up Apparel. It's also where you're going to find all the merchandise for 24/7 marriage. You get merch there. We're going to be expanding that line as well. But just the quality, the fit, the make of Stand Up Apparel is incredible. So please go use the link below. It helps us. It supports them as well. We've had a lot of people who ask, like, why does Javier always look so good? Well, it's the t-shirts that I wear. That is why. So again, welcome to the 24/7 Marriage Podcast. We are glad you're here. And yeah.
I didn't spend a lot of time on my hair this
I
morning.
told you last night and I told you today that your hair looks very pretty.
But I feel I'm getting a news anchor vibe.
Whoop, whoop.
Just a little.
Now,
I
Shannon,
should have curled it some more, but we're just going to go with it.
give me your news anchor like voice and delivery.
Reporting live on the front lines of 24/7 marriage, I bring you Javier Labrador.
And mine would be more of like an announcer. Ladies and gentlemen, live from 24/7 Marriage in Prescott, Arizona.
Okay, but that sounds more like a circus.
That's not a circus. That's just
like
an announcer.
No, that sounds like a ringmaster or like a boxing.
All right,
The
Shannon.
guy that grabs the mic out of the ceiling,
In the center, weighing in at 325 pounds.
They're usually in.
Okay, Shannon, I'm just in the blue corner, weighing in at 255 pounds. Okay, I don't have a name.
Why do our children always call us when we're podcasting?
That's how it always works.
They'll have to wait.
You were trying to do bangs.
I am.
I know, but you had a different, like now it's like, I told you last night, it's like all Farrah Fawcett. Like, I don't know if everybody's going to know what that is, but like, her hair is like feathered and, fluffed back.
I don't like to do the same thing. I like to be able to do different things with my hair.
This we know. Just adjusting your mic there for you. I at times love to do different things with my hair as well. As you can see this morning, I parted it to the left.
Okay.
So I'm doing good.
How about we have a rule? I'll be in charge of my microphone. You be in charge of yours. So I like to flat iron it where it's straight. I like to make it messy. I like to make it curly. I like to have bangs that sweep. I don't know.
Bangs that sweep. I got a beard that sweeps. I have no idea what that means.
If we're in really bad wind and we're walking or something, your beard just kind of like swooshes to the like.
Well, yeah, it's just like a hair on the head. It's gonna blow with the wind.
No, but like I can shake mine back into place, but yours just kind of has this like.
Well, yeah, I got to bring it back because I have kind of like, thick curly hair for the most part.
It's like Tammy did your beard. Your beard, it go like this.
Well, how come your beard go like this? So that's not nice.
We're imitating Angela Johnson, which is totally fine. Okay.
We are glad you are here listening in, and we have exciting things coming up on the podcast. Some guests coming up, but also future partnerships to expand the work that we're doing, the podcast exposure, which is going to be incredible. We're currently in the process of looking and building out the 24/7 marriage community, which will be a space where, because I think what's really important is that people join are part of a community of not just where they're hearing from us, but they're getting to connect with other individuals and couples who are maybe in the same season of life you are in marriage. Maybe they're experiencing a similar situation that you're experiencing with a spouse, or, it's not going to be a place in the community where we complain and, where there's going to be some parameters around this community, but it's a place where like we can lift one another up. We can support one another. We've always said in a lot of our events at boot camps that marriage is meant to be done in community. And so we're thinking like, if we keep saying that, then how do we actually do that? And so there's going to be a community, and there's going to be a paid portion of the community that goes a little bit deeper. That will give you more resources. That will give you more. There'll be access in the sense of like we'll be doing some live calls. There's going to be courses on there. A number of things, from free courses, some are paid. There's a number of things that you'll be able to experience. We're excited about that. You'll be able to engage on a consistent basis within this community,
Yes.
and we know it's going to be a valuable thing.
We want it to benefit people. This isn't Facebook or Instagram where you can come and leave sarcastic or strange, weird comments. If somebody legitimately is like posing a question and this is a real struggle that they're going through in their marriage, we want a community that if you don't know the answer, then don't leave a comment. If you don't have something beneficial to say or something helpful, then don't leave a comment. But this is a place for you to say, "Gosh, that happened to us.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how we walked through it. I don't know if it'll work for you, but can I share with you?"
Yeah, but to encourage and lift one
Yeah.
another up as well, and so yeah, so that's gonna be we're working on that now. So a number of just fun things that
It's
are
coming
taking
in
place,
February.
and but if you're listening to this podcast and it, I don't know when it comes out,
Mm.
but it's here in February. There are boot camps coming up this year. Make sure you get yourself to a boot camp. I'm telling you that not just because we're hosting it, it's not anything that we do or that we say or that the team says. Um, it
Well, I
is
mean, Anna and Steve are
yeah,
they're
but
pretty cool.
it's really the commitment you make to invest into and the work in your marriage, and spending the time getting away and actually doing that. So it's a
Yeah.
pretty powerful weekend. So that said, I was thinking, uh,
Oh no. I don't like when you think.
no,
Thinking's bad.
this is about our topic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whew.
If in the middle of this podcast you hear us yell the word "phooey," it is to our dog.
And
And
it's a
the reason
German.
why it's Shadow just got spayed not too long ago, and she's still wanting to, like look at her wound. And so if you hear that, just so you know, that's what's
Well,
going on.
because we opted not to put her cone on her head, and
Yeah, the
because
cone of shame now.
she's doing really good, like leaving it alone and just sleeping and healing. So as long as she keeps doing that, I don't want to put the cone on
Yeah,
her because
I
it's
thought about wearing the cone for this podcast, so that way,
you don't
yeah,
lick
I
yourself.
don't look myself.
Mm. Okay.
Keep me from getting that Shannon here. So I wanted to talk about we want to talk about this idea because I think we've seen this often with a lot of couples who've asked a question. It's not always. I would say I don't know if you agree, but predominantly a lot of men will ask this question. I get it from I've seen some women ask this question as well, but a lot of men ask this question. It's like, okay, so
I know
this
what you're
is
gonna
not
say.
what.
No, no,
What am I going
go.
to say? No, I want to see. Can you lean in
Um,
so they can hear you?
no,
Lean in so
Bobby,
they can
they
hear
can
you.
hear me.
Okay.
Trust me. My female voice is a little bit higher than yours, so it will
Mm-hmm.
pick up just fine.
Okay.
You almost spilled your tea. You're gonna say that how long do I have to endure this? How long do we have to go through this? How long is long enough? How long do you blah 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 fill in the blank, right? Am I right? Am I right? I'm not right?
No, you are right.
Oh, I knew it.
No, you are right.
Um, but I would say since I'm in the comments, like the majority of the day on Instagram, I mean, there are 80% women, wives in there. Is about, I hear it a lot too from them.
So it's this idea of okay, so how much longer? This seems unfair. What about my needs? What about the things I'm going through? So the idea of what we're doing right now is talking about when loving your spouse seems unfair. If it seems unfair to you, like balancing selflessness and self care, loving sacrificially without growing resentful of your spouse. And I think this is an important topic because we've had so many couples say like, okay, so how much longer do we need to navigate this until things are better, or till I can address the things that she's doing wrong or that he's done? Even though I know I was the one who committed this fault, it's been 6 months or 7 months. Like, can I address the things that she's doing wrong or he's doing wrong? Okay, so there's that piece. There's the other piece about we're going through a difficult season. It could be even be a physical, something physical. It could be, health related. Gosh, it's been hard. It's been difficult. Like, how much longer? Or, I keep doing the right thing, but my spouse continues to just be belittling or angry or frustrated with me, or the wall doesn't seem to be coming down, but I'm loving and I'm trying to serve and do all the right things. You know, at what point do I stop doing that?
Well, you
And
just said something really good.
hold on, but I always tell men, like, okay, then stop. Then stop. Stop loving your wife. Stop pursuing her. Stop engaging with her. Stop moving towards her. Stop helping her carry what she's carrying. And what? And then leave. What are you gonna then stop? And then see what the price or the consequence of stopping is going to be. Like, you're not doing that.
But what they would say to you, if I play devil's advocate, Javier, I'm giving and I'm giving and I'm not getting anything in return, and nothing is really changing in our marriage.
Then stop. I mean, I don't what when people ask me this, I'm like, I'm not sure what you want me to tell
Well,
you
what they
at that moment, because here's the thing. You can stop doing that. The result is you will not be married, likely. You can stop doing those things. You're going to have a disconnected marriage, an unhealthy marriage, not a marriage that's thriving. And I hear that if it's your responsibility for, as a spouse, whether you like it or not, and it's what you said yes to, is to unconditionally love your spouse in this covenant of marriage. It wasn't about contract. You do this and then I'll get this, right?
Mhm.
But your responsibility is your actions, your behaviors, how you move towards your spouse. And there are things that can help shift this. I'm just saying, like, that's the responsibility.
It's really hard to jump in and not interrupt you.
Jump in.
I am.
Good.
Um, First of all, I think that people, when they ask these questions of us, they're being real.
I get it. Yep.
They're they're looking for a timeline. They're looking for a number. Like, we base everything in our world and in our life on timelines. January to December is 1 year. 9 months is a full term pregnancy. A season is
Roughly.
3.5 months. Like, we base everything on times. So they're looking to say, Javier, do you have a magic number? Yeah, 2 years. If you gave it 2 years, then you're free to go, or you get a pass and you can collect $200.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of them. The second part is that people view marriage as something different than what goes on in the rest of our lives relationally. In every other arena of life, life is not fair. But for some reason, when we get married, we have these expectations that we put on our spouse that somehow this is supposed to be fair. I've been serving and loving you for 2 years. I've been waiting for your addiction to finally get
Yeah.
the help you need. And
Yeah.
it's been 5 years. Like,
Yeah.
life is not fair,
Yeah.
and neither is marriage.
Yeah.
And we signed up for a covenant, but what happens is it migrates into a contract, because we have kept record of all the things that we have done. If your spouse had cancer, would you be asking, when is this cancer going to go away? Like, how much longer do we deal with cancer in
Yeah.
our lives?
I
We would never say that to
No,
our spouse or feel that
I hear that,
way.
but I have worked with somebody who he only knew his wife with cancer from the day they got married,
Mhm.
because
I know who you're talking
it came
about.
right before their wedding,
Yes.
and he would not leave. He wasn't giving up. But in our humanity, we have to understand that it's tiring, it's exhausting, and our own human nature, and the things that. So we're not telling you need to bury your desires, you need to bury the things that you want, that you hope for. Like, I'm not telling you that. It's just that, but this is where you're at, and this is what you get to do in this season. And I promise you, in the faithfulness of that, that the reward, even, and I pray that you see it on this side of eternity, but if not, you'll see it on the other side. So I don't want to discount the fact that we know that it's difficult, that it's hard, that especially when it comes like a health thing, that the other person can't really prevent any of that, that it wasn't what you expected. But what can it be? How can you bring joy back in? How can you find fulfillment in that? And sometimes it is shifting and laying down some of the things that you anticipated, that you thought. We're going to give you some of those practical things in those moments, but I want to go back for a second, because I think people really need to understand, like, you own your actions, your behaviors, your decisions, and your choices. And so, yes, you can give up tomorrow, and you can say, I'm done. I'm done. Like, I have kept doing the things that you said to do, Javier. I kept doing it. I keep following everything, and I'm following all these other marriage, ministries and things that they're doing, and none of it's working. Hey, you were responsible for doing your
Yeah.
part. And so if there comes a moment when you say that you're gonna walk away from that, you got to make the decision between you and God, and ultimately, like, you're gonna stand before God for that. But at the end of the day, too, I want you to also hear that we're not condoning abuse, physical abuse, even extreme verbal abuse, like, all these areas. Now, listen. There are reasons why at times, like, you're doing the right thing, but that is not something that you need to stand and stay in, especially if you're in danger in any way. Um, on on the other side of that is, oh, I'm just not happy. We're just not, getting along anymore, and then off we go. So let's use this as a base, a scripture. And even if you're not a person of faith, this will resonate with you. In First Corinthians, it says, "Love is patient. Love is kind. It is not self seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrong. It keeps no list of wrongs." So basically, it might feel at times unfair, especially when you feel like your needs might get overlooked, or the focus is just on them. So, how do you walk this out? I think you have to acknowledge the reality that this feels unfair right now. We're not saying marriage, it isn't fair,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there's just so many things that happen in marriage. We're not looking for fair, but the feeling that, man, I have these tendencies, and I feel there's some unmet expectations. Like, it's okay to acknowledge that,
Mm-hmm.
right? What would you say?
To what?
I'm saying, do you want to elaborate on that?
You just did.
Okay. It's normal to feel frustrated when love requires more from you than you anticipated, than you expected. But isn't that true? Like, hasn't there been seasons of our life where it has required so much more than what you expected and anticipated?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Tell them, has there been any moments where it has felt, when will this end, and will this get better?
Oh yeah. Year 18. It was a October afternoon.
Leaves were falling, the air was crisp.
It was a cool 73 degrees. We were in Ventura, and I remember standing in the shower, and I said to myself, uh,
Why are you yanking on your ear?
I'm not, because I don't want to cry. We were only married 18 years, and I said, God, have I already lived the best years of our marriage? We're like, are the best years of our marriage already behind us? And it was, I was okay with it. I was like, that's okay. They were a great 18
That's right.
years.
Absolutely.
And I would cherish them, and I would hold them so tight and close to my heart. But I needed God to show up for me, because what I was facing was a behemoth, was a giant mountain, a glacier, whatever metaphor you want to use. I was facing something so big that I had to ask myself the question, if it never changes, will I be content, and how will I continue to love and pursue my spouse if nothing ever changes, because leaving is not an option.
or if that was the new reality,
Yeah.
right? How does that shift and change from what I had hoped, what I
Yeah.
expected, anticipated, or what
It's
we
kind of
had
it's
dreamed about, all
yeah,
those
it's
pieces?
kind of like after 2020, and it was like 2021, 22, and everybody's like, when do we get back to like the way things used to be? When does normal return? And it's
Probably
like,
not.
well, it never did, and
Yeah.
we've already been altered from the pandemic, and it's changed so much of our lives. We're never going to go back to the way it was. And I think in that moment, it was like, um, I didn't even have the forethought to think about like rediscovering, like rebuilding a new marriage with you. I was in survival mode. You were in a very deep depression. I was just getting through the day. I was homeschooling 2 kids, 2 girls, and I wanted so badly to show up for you and do whatever little part I could to put a smile on your face, to bring joy to you, and wrestle with that question with God in my quiet time of, God, you've got to sustain me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving this man. But you've got to help me, because what if this never gets better? What if
Yeah.
he never finds true freedom from depression?
Yeah.
And in some instances, I don't know that you have. We've had reprieve, we've had long seasons, but it comes and goes
No, there's moments where
with you.
where it can. There's some things that can hit me for sure. But for those of you who may not know, we're not going to unpack the whole story. But it was a season of loss. There was a season of a lot of things that took place that radically shifted the trajectory of where we thought we were headed. But it also brought us to where we're at today without knowing, right? And that's the thing, you often don't know what God has prepared for you in the middle of a season that you want to be out of. But he was getting us ready for whatever would be next, and it's not the way we wanted to get there or for it to happen. But I was in this place of depression, and so it did not seem fair to her. It did not. She was, the things that she had hoped for, expected, the way she had to pursue and love me, like that's not what she had anticipated. But yet, that's where we found ourselves. And you heard her say, there's a choice and a decision where she had to give sacrificial love, because it wasn't a 50-50 type deal that we had.
It was like
If I was
20/80 in
able to
that
give 50,
season.
then she would give 50. But if I could only give 30, then shoot, I'm not going to give. I'm going to give 32 then. No, it's 100, 100. It's 100 plus. It's always being all in, committed without keeping score,
Yeah,
without.
I feel like it's really important that I say this.
Say it, Shannon.
It was a number of years that we went through that, and it still comes and goes. But in that season, in year 18, it was a couple years. I want you to know that I never went without anything. I got good sleep. I had a roof over my head. I had food. I was able to homeschool our girls. We still had relationship. We still spent time together. We still enjoyed each other, even in the midst of going through that very dark valley. I don't regret 1 second of pouring in and serving my spouse in that way. There's nothing that I look back and regret. Gosh, I gave so much of my time to Javier in those 3 or 4 years. What? That was so wasted. I could have been, self-discovering me and taking yoga and painting classes, but, I was just pouring into my husband. That was my greatest joy. It was my greatest privilege, and
Yeah.
I would do it all over again in a heartbeat.
Thank you. I wouldn't, but I'm kidding. I mean, you go backwards to year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it wasn't what I had thought I signed up for, and what I had
Yeah.
expected, and what that journey would be when we went through those early years of our marriage, and of just kind of where Shannon was at, what she was navigating, but also me thinking, did I make a mistake? Was this the wrong thing?
Yeah.
Like she's brutal, she's mean, she doesn't, like, I don't know, will she ever support me, like in the things that are in front of me, or that I think I would desire to do, or desired to do. And so, but that shifted in those seasons. Like, I had to continue to show up and to show up and to show up. Why? Because the call was to sacrificial love. And that's our other point. Like, it's a call to sacrificial love. Like, scripture actually tells us, husband, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. He gave himself up for her. So that's sacrificial, unconditional, and selfless love. Like, that's what we're called to, unconditional, not based on you. When you do A, B, and C, then I will.
Yeah.
It was an unconditional love. So marriage mirrors that kind of love, requiring us to put our spouse's needs in front of ours. And I can tell you in the season, the moments when I have done that, and when Shan has done that, God has met us in our greatest place of need. He has met every desire, fulfilled everything in our lives. So that sacrificial love, it does mean like serving without expecting a repayment,
Mm,
like serve without expecting a repayment, forgiving without holding
yeah.
a grudge, about choosing to love each other even when it's inconvenient and when it's difficult. And like our motto says, right? Because in that moment, you don't have to, you get to. You get to come alongside your spouse and help them heal. And I know I can't, I've told couples over and over again, like, just keep leaning, have grace, keep leaning on God and one another. And I'm going to give you some stuff here before we wrap up that hopefully I think will be helpful. Because I think there is this balance where you do still have to be selfless, but also still take care of yourself in order to be able to give to the other person.
Yeah. 100%.
They're not
And
your answer. So when you're sitting there waiting for them to give you everything, well, it's not what I expected, and they're not doing it. Well, they're not your solution. They're not the answer to everything for you. Like,
yeah.
you do have to care for yourself.
Yeah. So I was looking up a biblical definition and meaning of sacrifice. Sacrifice means giving to the Lord whatever He requires of our time, our earthly possessions, and our energies, and our future to His future work. The Lord commanded, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness." So our willingness to sacrifice is an indication of our devotion to God. So your marriage is not just a relationship, it's a ministry.
Yeah.
So when I'm sacrificially giving to my spouse or to my family or to both, I am doing it unto the Lord. He is the one that will say, "Well done, good and faithful servant," not Javier, not my life coach, not president, whoever. Nobody's going to stand before me except Jesus Christ
Yeah.
and 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 be able to say that to me.
Yeah.
So you have to remember that when you're called to sacrifice and when you're walking that out, you have to daily have a mindset shift that this is unto God. And that's what I had to remember. I didn't get a lot of things in those seasons, but actually you'd be hard pressed to ask me what I didn't get. Like, did I not go shopping as much? Did I have less shoes? Did I shop less on Amazon Prime? Did I have less girlfriend time?
Yeah.
I don't know, and I really don't care because that's
Yeah.
so not the point.
Yeah.
I got to sacrificially love you, and that's unto God.
Yeah.
Like, God is remembering
Yeah.
what I did in that
Yeah.
season.
And the thing is, I just encourage you, you have to keep showing up. Keep doing the right thing
Yeah.
over and over and over and over again, even in the face of the wrong thing being done. And that is incredibly difficult because, like you're saying, I've got needs and I've got these, and I expected that my spouse would be able to, hey, but this is where you're at. And so now you have to make a decision of how are you going to pursue that person, and especially not grow resentful towards them in that
Yeah.
process,
Mm.
right? When you feel unseen, you feel unappreciated, you're keeping score, and you're not addressing, like the underlying issues or maybe some of the expectations you had. And maybe you're holding these things against your spouse and you haven't even spoken to them. Because maybe
Yeah.
even in the middle of what they're going through, they'd be able to stop and say, this is a difficult season for me with what I'm going through, what we're navigating, but I want to be able to meet your needs the best that I can. It's going to look different. It's going to feel different. And I don't know if I'm always going to do well, but can we talk about what that looks like in this season? Well, I thought we would right now we can't do that. I thought we'd have sex 3 days a week. Well, I'm having a physical issue down there. This is happening. So, like, this is the option. Like, this is what we can do. There's other fun things you can do in the bedroom. Like, you have to be able to communicate these things and combat any resentment that would come up. Because that's the thing. If you don't talk about it, you will grow resentful of your spouse and frustrated with them. And then you get bitter and then you're disconnected. You don't communicate. You don't engage. So focus on unconditional love. I would say practice gratitude as well. Like, even in the midst of, like Shan just said, there were things you could be thankful for, right? There was breath in your lungs this morning.
Yeah.
We have incredible kids I get to love and invest into. He goes to work every day and he supports and he provides. She is taking care of the kids every day and doing these things, and like find those things and communicate where there might be some frustrations. But I also want to encourage you, like, release expectations. Like,
Mm.
release expectations that also your spouse is responsible for your happiness and for your joy,
I think that
because
people hold on
only
so
God can do
tight
that.
to expectations like a cloak.
Oh yeah,
Like you say to let it go, and we're like, oh, we'll
yeah,
take it off, and we're like, no, I got to throw this back on because I don't know if it's self preservation, self protection. Um, is it your ticket for a way out eventually? I'm not sure why people do that. Also, the father of isolation is the enemy. Like the
yeah,
enemy
yeah,
is the author of isolation. So once he gets you isolated in your thoughts, he's winning. God designed life to be done in community, not in isolation, not you're not all by yourself. So when you simmer with the thoughts of what your spouse isn't doing, how they're not showing up, when you keep feeding them, they keep growing. And when you're not sharing them with trusted friends, mentors, counselors, therapists, your spouse, they fester, they grow, the wound gets bigger, it doesn't get smaller. So remember that isolation is from the enemy, and he wants to keep you in that place of thinking on these thoughts so that they
yeah,
keep growing.
yeah, yeah. And I would say, we're going to wrap this up here in just a moment. I would also say, like, um, being selfless, but also you do have to have self care. That even in the midst of this,
Yeah.
like serving your spouse, doing the right thing, you have to have self care, and that's a really important part. Like, you can't ignore your needs. I mean, you think about it. Like, even Jesus got
Got
away
away. Yeah, that's
to
true.
pray, to be by himself,
Mm.
because you can't give from an empty well, from an empty cup. You cannot. So you do have to take care of self. You do have to take care of the needs that are in front of you. And I think it's an important part is that we forget to take care of also self in the midst of that. So being able to connect with somebody else, being able to have somebody who holds you accountable, being able to do some things that are life giving to you, that are helpful for you when it comes time to um like refreshing, what fills your bucket, right? Like, what is good and what is healthy for you. So I think those are really, really powerful things that I think can be helpful to you in the season, with where you're at. Like, lean on one another, and if you're like, and give grace too, because there's gonna be moments you don't get it right, moments both of you don't get it right. But I want you to remove from your language, oh, this is unfair, and when will it be my turn? It's like,
Life's not fair.
listen, this is the marriage that you are in, that God has brought you into. And there's a reason He has given you the strength that you have in this season. And maybe your spouse is struggling, that you get to help them heal. You get to love them. You get to pursue them. You get to create the space for them to be cared. You get to be able to share responsibilities in this season, like sacrificing, even those things. I'm telling you, we have done it. We're telling you from experience. Shannon's probably doing it now with me, because I'm constantly always unwrapping more and more layers of my complicated self, and I take
Yes.
up more space in the marriage. But I am still clear on saying, how can I best still love you and serve you? How can I come alongside, and understanding what her needs are too? So, also, if you're that spouse who's going through something, don't make it all about you. I get it. There are some things that are really extreme, and they do end up being that way.
Yeah.
But it's also like, each of you are responsible for you, how you love, engage, pursue, move towards your spouse, doing the right thing, showing up, giving grace, forgiveness, not keeping score. Like, you're responsible for you. But as you do that, it also softens your spouse. But if you're the spouse on the other end who's navigating something difficult, or hasn't been reciprocating what you've been given, maybe at times, ask yourself, what needs to shift and change here? Like, even though I'm going through this, I can have healthy conversations with my spouse to talk about, what does it look like in this season?
Mhm.
Or if my spouse brings me something, like, hey, I know we're going through this, but sometimes I feel like you're a little frustrated and angry and bitey with me when I ask you a question. How can we work on that? Don't be like, well, I'm going through this and I need your support. Like, no, just say, you know what? Yeah, I hear you in that. It is tough. I've not been doing good at that. How can we figure this out together? Stand next to each other, looking at the problem, looking at what you're facing, as opposed to standing right in front of each other and bickering and seeing one another as a problem.
That was good.
You want anything as we end?
Ooh, I cried again on a podcast. I can't
Perfect.
believe it.
Love it.
Um,
Love it. It's real, honey.
the don't be afraid to reach out for help. There's a statistic that says a couple struggling through marriage difficulties or problems waits on an average of 6 years before they'll get help. That's a really long time to be isolated. Find older couples who have healthy marriages that can be in your corner, who will show up for you,
Yeah.
who you can have dinner with, who you can grab coffee with, who you can say, "We're going through this and it sucks. It just really sucks." Have people who journey along with you. If you need to see a counselor or a therapist, don't wait. Act on that.
Yeah.
Like, don't go at this alone. And don't buy into the lie that what we're going through, nobody else would understand and nobody else is probably going through this. That's a big fat lie. There isn't anything new under the sun that I've ever heard that I'm like, "Oh, that's the first time I've ever heard that." Everybody is going through something. You will go through struggles,
Yeah.
valleys, hills.
Yeah.
You will go through it all. So don't isolate yourself
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
surround yourself with a circle.
Yeah. So there's a lot more to be said on this topic, but we're going to wrap up. So thank you for being part of the 24/7 Marriage family.
Yeah.
For listening to this podcast, remember you can go to Stand Up Apparel, pick up some shirts, get some 24/7 merchandise. The link is below. Also transcripts, and you can also make sure that you're supporting the work of 24/7 Marriage and the work that we're doing by going to 247marriage.org, clicking on donate, or also I think it's in. Is it in the link here too in the podcast or on Instagram?
They're
You can
in the
find it
show notes.
in the show notes. There you go. Be looking out for the community, 24/7 Marriage community. And always remember, in marriage, you don't have to.
You get
Have
to.
an incredible week. For listening to the 24/7 Marriage podcast. Help us expand our reach by rating and leaving us a review on iTunes. Make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. For more information on the work we do and how to support the 24/7 Marriage, head on over to 247marriage.org and click on Partner with Us. Until next week, remember, in marriage you don't have to, you get to.